Putazos y Pendejadas Podcast.
Well, Mark, the big fight finally happened. After over 20 years, we finally have an undisputed light heavyweight champion. But did we get the fight we were expecting? Not everyone feels that way. What's up, everyone? It's David, along with my brother from another mother, Mike Salinas, representing the Texas to Califas connection. What's up, my man? How are you?
Good, man. How you guys doing out there? How the camaradas doing out there? The PYP camaradas.
Yeah, man. Well, everybody's up in arms, man. I'm seeing everyone online. We're kind of split down the middle about the verdict of the fight. It was a good fight, I thought. Not everybody felt that way. Some people felt disappointed. How did you feel about the fight?
Well, Bivol better be man for undisputed for all the canicas. We've all been waiting for it for a while. Listen, I liked the fight. I expected more from it. I didn't hate it. It wasn't boring. But let's break it down a little bit. Bivol did great. He had great lateral movement, boxing. He kept the distance. He did everything he was supposed to do, especially the lateral movement. That was the key to Bivol's victory, along with his classic, great, basic boxing style. I always say it about those guys, but I'm not diminishing them at all. They just do the basic things so great, along with the lateral movement that he probably worked on in camp. I think that led him to a victory, although we got a different decision. But I wasn't too mad with the decision, David, because, although he had the great lateral movement and he did everything he needed to do to have a great boxing match and win, he didn't go for it. I thought Beterbiev would have been more aggressive earlier. But he finally did in those later rounds. But to me, it was too little, too late, and I just think Bivol hung on to win. I expected something like a Mickey Ward, Gotti. I expected Barrera Morales, but we got what we got. I think if we get the rematch, it's going to be the same. But I think we need a rematch because of the turnout and everybody's hands up in a roar, and also. Maybe in the next one or the other will take initiative and really try to take it.
I thought it was a good fight. I was entertained by the fight. I wasn't expecting Gatti Ward action because these guys aren't Gatti Ward. When you have two highly skilled fighters, it's really hard to land clean punches all the time. And that's why the knockouts are not as frequent at the higher levels when higher levels fight each other, because their defenses are so good and their technique is so good. And they're very intelligent, and the ring IQs are very high. Both Beterbiev and Bivol were blocking punches and making adjustments throughout the fight. I've got to admit, Bivol surprised me. I thought Beterbiev was going to win, but we knew that Bivol had good feet. He's very linear. And as you were pointing out, the lateral movement surprised me. He was turning Beterbiev at times and made it hard for Beterbiev to cut the ring off. Bivol also showed a lot of toughness and grit. I knew he was tough because of how he fought Canelo, but I kind of chalked that up to Canelo being a smaller fighter and Bivol being bigger than him. So we knew he was tough, but he showed a lot of toughness in this fight. I thought he was going to wilt under Beterbiev's power and pressure. And there were times where he even stood in front of Artur and would exchange shots with him and go jab for jab with him in close quarters. I will admit there wasn't a whole lot of action in this fight. It still felt very tense to me. I was still on the edge of my seat because I knew one punch could change the fight. Ultimately, I scored it a draw. That's how I had it. I can understand a 7-5 type fight for Bivol or Beterbiev. I do have a problem with that one scorecard mark, the 116-112. That is an 8-4 card. That means 8 rounds to 4. And I don't think either fighter won 8 rounds. It's hard for me to see where that happened in the fight. Other than that, I don't get the outrage over the decision. It was a close fight. Differences in opinion are expected. There were basically 2 or 3 rounds that were just really hard to score. Do you think there should be a rematch? I think I heard you say yes, right?
Yeah, there should be a rematch, although we're gonna get the same outcome unless somebody steps it up. But this type of an outcome demands a rematch. Everybody wants to see it. Even the promoters want to see the rematch.
Yeah,
Nobody's
I know
satisfied with
Eddie
this.
Hearn. Eddie Hearn wanted a rematch. So did Turkey Al Sheikh. He actually thought Bivol won the fight, so he's pushing for a rematch as well. It sounds like both fighters want it.
Yeah.
I agree there wasn't a definitive outcome, so let's do it again. And I don't know that we're going to get the same type of fight because now these fighters know each other and they were making adjustments inside of that ring. If you noticed, Bivol was doing really well countering Beterbiev's jab. And then later on in the fight, Beterbiev started feigning and using his jab and landing it on Bivol. And Bivol wasn't countering the jab anymore because he saw that Beterbiev made an adjustment. So I think we're going to get a different fight. These guys know each other now. If anything, Beterbiev can improve on his performance more than Bivol did. I thought Bivol fought a very good fight. I thought Bivol's strategy was very sound, but he started to wear down towards the end of the fight. And I don't know how he can improve on that going into a rematch. We'll have to see. Turkey did mention that he would like to have this fight take place as part of a huge card in February, possibly on the undercard of Dubois versus Joshua 2. That's going to be a big card right there if it were to happen. One more question, Mark. Did the way that this fight turned out change your view on the chances that David Benavidez or David Morrell would have versus either fighter, Beterbiev or Bivol?
No, I don't think any of them would change their style. It doesn't change my mind. These guys are great at basic boxing, so when they fight each other, they're going to be extremely careful. It won't. I don't want to say I don't want to say that this was a boring fight because it wasn't. Right? Them two
You could say
fighting
you
each
were
other.
expecting more.
Yeah, I was expecting more, but what can you expect when you got two guys that do the basic skills so great and are very careful about not getting hit? It won't be the same fight, but I don't think it doesn't change my mind. Bivol would completely dominate both of those fighters and Beterbiev. I honestly thought that Beterbiev was not going to be what he was because of the meniscus injury. He answered all those questions. Doesn't change my mind at all. Benavidez and Morale, they don't got a shot against these two guys. We saw how great they were.
I agree with you. I saw two highly skilled fighters in there, and I don't think Morrell or Benavidez are at that level. There were a couple of people online who said, "Oh, Benavidez is going to knock Beterbiev out." I don't see it at all, but that's why we fight the fights. Let's see David Morrell and Benavidez versus each other and see how they look in their second fight at 175. Anyway, Mark, there was more boxing action on ESPN Plus. We talked about the two cards in Japan, actually three cards. The Sunday card and the Monday card, to me, outdid the Riyadh season card. The first card was headlined by Takuma Inoue, who defended his WBA bantamweight title versus Seiya Susumi. You pointed out that Susumi was a dangerous opponent and that he ended up being a dangerous opponent. He stunned Inoue, taking a close decision. Susumi outworked Inoue over the course of the fight. What were your thoughts?
Look, Susumi, I said, was a tough opponent and a very dangerous guy because I've seen him fight before, and I'm a big fan of these, lower weight classes. But he really, really stepped up. He was overwhelming Inoue. It didn't really take into effect until maybe like the fourth or fifth round, and then he took over. Listen, I'm not saying Inoue just completely got washed because he had his moments in there when he would box the way he wanted to box, and he comes from the great Inoue school of boxing. When they both had their moments, Susumi completely dominated in his moments, and Takuma Inoue had his moments, but they weren't as dominating. And Susumi dominated all the way down the stretch, overwhelmingly. This is the best performance that I've seen Susumi have. He really stepped on the gas this time. The plans were for Inoue to win this, and then it sets up a Junto Nakatani matchup, and then we go on to the monster versus the new monster, and that would be great. Your plan was getting there, that your
It's
prediction,
close.
It was close, but like I said, man, too many perfect things have to happen, and Susumi
Well,
happened, man.
I
Susumi
mean,
happened.
we were one fight away from it, right? I don't think it changes much in terms of the overall plan. I think Nakatani still wants to unify the belts at 118, so that can still happen whether it's with Takuma or not. I just think the brother angle, right? Revenge of the brother. I just thought that would have made it more interesting. It would have created headlines in Japan. It would have been a big deal. Um, but a Nakatani versus Naoya Inoue fight will still sell, and it'll still be the hugest thing in Japan, in Japanese boxing, and that could still happen. I just think the brother angle adds a little spice to it, you know. But Tsutsumi made the adjustment. He kept pressing in a way. He forced his back to the ropes, and that's where Tsutsumi did his best work. As Inoue got sloppy with his defense, and Tsutsumi began landing punches frequently, and that led to the turning point in the fight where Tsutsumi got the knockdown and Inoue kind of got knocked into the ropes. It didn't look like a legit knockdown, and that knockdown gave Tsutsumi so much momentum. He took it and carried it all the way to the end of the fight. I think this was a really good fight. I could see a rematch happening, but I would think Tsutsumi would love to get in the ring with Nakatani. Mark, moving on to another fight that was on the undercard for that. The amazing boy Kenshiro Teraji forces Eddie Reynoso to call the fight on the advice from the doctor for Christopher Rosales due to a broken nose. Teraji wins his second divisional title. He's held titles at 108 pounds and now at 112 pounds. Teraji looked very sharp in this fight, even as the smaller fighter in the ring. He just was too quick, too sharp, too amazing. Teraji often gets into brawls and back and forth exchanges, but we saw him maintain a boxer puncher style for most of this fight. It was a beautiful thing to see versus a solid veteran opponent.
Taraji looked great, man. He needed this big win. He needed a TKO, I believe, because people were, saying that his skills were diminished after the Canizales fight last year. So they were kind of, but that was fight of the year, man. That was one of those great fights that we see, and he had a tough competitor in front of him. He showed that he hasn't slowed down. Christopher was tough. He was trained by Canelo's team. He is a Canelo fighter, as you saw him wearing the Viva Mexico Cabrones shorts. Canelo was in the house cheering his countrymen on. Christopher, in my opinion, was really, really tough. I don't think anybody would have even fought through the initial broken nose. It was bad, and he fought through it. Then he looked like he was going down again in the fourth, but he kept up, man, and he stayed. So Kenshiro had a willing opponent in front of him, but Kenshiro is just too much. He's got an amazing straight right that he constantly throws every single time from every different angle, and he's got amazing footwork, the fastest footwork in the flyweight division, in my opinion. It is a sight to see how fast he is on his feet. I'm not saying his punch output. It isn't even that fast. It really isn't. He is fast, but he's got like more quickness than speed. But it's it's the footwork. I mean, the fastest footwork in the game. He overwhelmed them. I'm glad that he won. This opens up a lot of things for Taraji, but I do know he's looking for Bam.
So with Bam campaigning at 115 pounds, do you think there's still an opportunity for that fight?
Absolutely. He's got opportunity for it, especially the way he looked. He can move up and do that, or he can move down and have that third match with Yabuki at the mini flyweight, or Yabuki can move up. So we could see a rubber match, man. That would be awesome.
Speaking of Yabuki, another upset happened in Japan. Sivanathy Nonshinga was stopped by Masamichi Yabuki. Mark, you warned us that this might happen in our breakdown video of the Japan doubleheader. You said you liked Yabuki in this fight. I thought the 2-year layoff was going to be an issue. It was not. Yabuki looked sharp. Nonshinga just looked overmatched at times. He never looked to be comfortable in the ring. But when someone hits as hard as Yabuki does at that weight, it would be hard for anyone to be comfortable with him. What are your thoughts on that fight?
I told you guys, man, Yabuki's the real deal. He's got 4 losses on his record, but out of the 5, count them, guys, 5 championship contests that we had this week in boxing, Yabuki's faced 2 of them, Nakatani and Kenshiro Teraji, and he's an ex-world champion. I knew he was tough. But I mean, he took losses to Nakatani, he took a loss to Kenshiro, but he beat Kenshiro. So I knew he was a tough guy. He came in and did what he needed to do. He overwhelmed Nachinga. Nachinga went down maybe 3-4 times, and he ended it, opening up great things for him. Right? It was a great performance by Yabuki. I'm really proud of him. He needed that. You know, a fifth loss there is going to make that record even look worse. But I'm glad he got that victory, and now we can see something maybe with him and Kenshiro, which is what I'd like to see now instead of the BAM.
Speaking on the Monday card, Mark, that was headlined by Junto Nakatani. Nakatani stops Salaat in round 6. Nakatani looks really good at bantamweight. I don't know that there's a fighter at 118 pounds that I would pick to beat him. Salaat was never in this fight. I mean, you could say he was going to – we all figured he was going to lose this fight even before the first bell rang. But he did look strong. He has some speed. His record was inflated, but it's still a very solid record, 72 wins and 1 loss going into that fight. I mean, even if you're fighting low-level competition like he did in Thailand, it still shows some consistency. So, you know, you got to give him a little bit of that. But as tricky an opponent as he might have been, Nakatani had no issues with him, Mark. Nakatani can do it all in the ring. He does it at a top level. And this fight just kind of resembled a bullfight to me. Nakatani, early in the fight, was stinging him with jabs and straight lefts and little uppercuts here and there, and he'd move out of the way. And once he weakened Salaat, he went in for the kill, and death by an overhand left is what happened. I think the bantamweight division is his for the taking. I'd like to see him go for undisputed before even thinking of moving up. But, you know, the bantamweight division has 4 belts, and all 4 of those champions are Japanese. I think we should call it the Japantam weight division. Mark, what are your thoughts on Nakatani?
Nakatani is in the matrix, man. He is in a zone like no other. Like a lot of our PYP followers here, you know, we played baseball when we were kids. You remember what it was like to be in the zone. I mean, the ball would come to you and it just looked gigantic to you. Swing and hit it. Like you just know you can do it all the time, right? Well, that never really happened to me because I wasn't that good. But I saw people who were in the zone and they did great. I mean,
that's how it was described to you, right?
Yeah. In basketball, I played basketball too, but people would tell me when they were in a zone, I mean, the rim looked like an ocean. And although it never happened to me, I witnessed it. But I think that's what's happening right now with Nakatani. He is in a zone like no other. I think this is his 3rd TKO in a row. He's not slowing down, doesn't show any signs of slowing down. He just looks like he's going to continue in this zone and be coasting at this for a while. I don't see anybody who can compete with him. 2 divisions down, 2 divisions up, only Inou. That's the only person I think that can compete with this guy. He's amazing, man. I can't even describe it. I just have to say he has to be in a zone right now, and he's got to take advantage of it. Keep fighting and fight as much as you can while you feel like that.
Yeah, Nakatani is definitely a special talent. And I think with the trainer that he has, he follows his trainer. He believes in what his trainer is teaching him. It's showing in the ring. I'm just really excited to see where this guy's career goes from here. Well, Mark, that wraps it up for this video, man. We saw a lot of boxing. There were 5 world titles on the line, and a couple of upsets took place over the weekend. Let us know, which fight did you appreciate the most? What were your thoughts on the Beterbiev-Bivol fight? Did you think the decision was correct? And are you looking forward to a rematch? Let us know in the comments below. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. PYP is out.